Okay, so, this is probably going to come off as a bit of a weird off-the-cuff kind of video, because I don't normally do, like, drama reaction stuff or anything like that. I mean, I do Let's Plays and I do more long-form stuff as well, but I have to just bring something up here because the last, like, day and a bit of the Twitter commentary around this new indie game called UNRECORD is... I think the only way I can describe it is entitled. It is an incredibly entitled discourse. For those who are not aware, UNRECORD is a first-person shooter with the key kind of aesthetic aspect of it being that it looks like body cam footage. It made in Unreal Engine 5. It looks fucking astonishing. Like, you look at the main trailer, which I'll probably have either at the end of this, because the dev materials, the marketing materials are available, so I can kind of showcase it there. But this is truly incredible looking graphical fidelity. And there's just been this cavalcade of various pundits within kind of the gaming community on Twitter and just general people going, yeah, really wish this was a horror game. Kind of disappointed that it's this. And if you were saying this to some monolithic AAA development team, I could maybe understand that. Like, when we all discovered that Fallout 76 was going to be multiplayer, a huge amount of the community went, what the fuck? This is like two guys, two French dudes just sat down, formed a studio called Drama, and are making a game they want to make. And they're getting all this bizarre backlash from people who are mad that they're making a game they don't want to play, even though there is absolutely a game out, well, which is in development, which does what they want. So, I will get to it in a second, but yeah, the rough idea is that UNRECORD is bodycam first-person shooter set as a kind of police procedural. And you go around, you call in like contacts, you have a gun, and obviously it's got that kind of shaky, floaty feeling to it, where the gunfight is very chaotic. You've even got the fantastic use of pixelation and blurring on people's heads and wounds, which I've got a playthrough of Dog Days, Kane and Lynch 2 on this channel. I fucking love that game's aesthetic, and I'm just so happy this game is also kind of going in that general direction. That's perfect as far as I'm concerned. And it is, I don't know, it's obviously a very much proof of concept, here's what we can do kind of thing, and yet people are kind of weighing in very quickly and going, well, this doesn't look particularly interesting, without really seeing much more than just, how combat works and some basic dialogue tree stuff. Like, we're not getting a big vertical slice of the game yet, and yet you are already getting extremely kind of vocal about how you don't like how the game looks. Like, there is a part in the trailer when you're going through an almost pitch black part of a building. There is going to be room for atmosphere in any game, and I have no doubt that UNRECORD will have that in some areas, but it's not a horror game, and for some reason a lot of people seem to think that if you're not making a horror game with this kind of stylistic design, you're doing it wrong? I really want to understand the thought process here, and there's commentaries for some people I fucking like and follow and respect on Twitter, and they've just decided to kind of throw out this real fucking weird take, and I feel like entitled is probably the most relevant way to describe it. It's seeing something that someone is making, and because it's not the kind of thing you want, you go, well, why aren't you making it for me? But anyway, for those people who do feel that way, there is a game called Paranormal Tales, where you are wearing a body cam, going into a spooky forest and trying to find your lost dog, which is in fact, I think, some of the concepts people were bringing up. This was teased back in April, no, not even April 19th, sorry, April 19th was yesterday, sorry. Yeah, like, this has been going around for a while. This is not kind of a necessarily, like, oh, we saw this and so we decided to kind of jump up there. Like, these guys even seem really supportive. They retweeted Alexandra Spindler, the guy who is like part of the production team for UNRECORD. There is no animosity between these guys. Both groups are doing some amazing stuff in terms of doing cool things with UE5. And gamers, fucking TM, have decided to make this everyone's fucking problem. It's sad. I would really love for there just to be more mutual support, and when people are pushing the boundaries of how you make a game, you just go, that's fucking awesome! Brilliant! And, I mean, the fact that Paranormal Tales kind of spotlit UNRECORD, and I believe Not So UNRECORD have done likewise. It would be very cool if they did, just to kind of show some mutual support there. But yeah, it depresses me slightly, to be honest with you, because it's not the kind of thing I would expect of many people who comment within the Twitter kind of gaming sphere, and yet they've decided to act like a bunch of salty children, which is depressing, to be completely honest with you. Now, I would just like to clarify as well, there does seem to be maybe a sense of fair game for UNRECORD, in that it is a game where you play a cop, and obviously Lefty Twitter is very much fuck cops. That's entirely fair, that you're 100% entitled to that particular opinion. However, there is maybe a point at which, if you just disregard something off the cuff, if you consider it to be bad just from that prospect alone, Disco Elysium, Sleeping Dogs, well, most procedural, like, detective thrillers in general across media, like, are we just giving UNRECORD the hard time when other things have maybe got away with that, or at the very least have... it's hard to really describe, because at the same time, UNRECORD is being a bit more straight down the middle in how it's depicted in police procedure, whereas obviously stuff like Disco Elysium and Sleeping Dogs very much played into the this is either bad or extremely bad for you kind of portrayal of police work. The actual devs themselves have actually posted up some information like, are you pro-police or anti-police? And, you know, they gave a very broad, very French, if you may pardon that generalisation, kind of response. As a French studio addressing the global audience, the game does not engage in any foreign policy and is not inspired by any real-life events. The game will obviously avoid any undesirable topics such as discrimination, racism, violence, and against women and minorities. The game will have no biased or Manichaean take on criminal acts and police violence. We do respect and understand people who may feel disturbed by the game's images. Art cannot fight against interpretation. That is an extremely good sentence right there. Art cannot fight against interpretation. It's true. Like, no matter what the artist does, they can't stop people interpreting it, and if they want to interpret things in bad faith, they're gonna. Justifying the undisclosed content of the game would be a spoiler, and you will discover the direction of the theme for yourself. The public generally trusts films, series, and novel writers and the intelligence and point of view when it comes to detective, gangster, or police stories. Why not for a video game? An extremely fair point, in my opinion. If the game presents political messages, they will be made consciously or in your interpretation. If the game aims to be subversive in certain countries, we will assume the label. So they're not shying away from any sense of controversy, but they are not courting it either. They're not pulling a hatred and just trying to be as edgy as humanly possible. They're not trying to glorify police work. They're just going to make the story they make, and how you interpret that is entirely down to you. And I know some people go, oh, well, you can't make it, nothing is apolitical, and you're right, nothing is truly apolitical. Everything is a reflection of the creator's political beliefs and ideas, and that's not wrong. But at the same time, there is a difference between producing a piece of media and passively allowing that politics to kind of pass through and kind of influence the work, and then there is consciously producing artwork with a political theme in mind, and perhaps that's maybe what does separate this game from games like Disco Elysium, like Sleeping Dogs, where those latter two were very much intended to be negative portrayals and very critical portrayals of police work and how futile or how self-destructive it can be. Whereas UNRECORD does seem to be a bit more of a straight down the middle, this is how police work is. It's going to be played, obviously, slightly more video gamey in terms of action and violence, but it is ultimately not trying to be more than it actually is. I don't know, it's extremely frustrating to see a game kind of get dismissed out of hand because it's not outwardly taking a stance on something that we've already given kind of carte blanche in other mediums, yet somehow in video games it becomes extremely important to have an opinion. I'm obviously withholding final judgment until the game comes out, and obviously we're still in very early days. There is a Discord, which is pretty nice, very active, a lot of people are being very nice there, there's some really good moderators who are kind of keeping the whole thing nice and clean. But generally speaking, like, I would expect people to give UNRECORD a chance, not just because it's avoiding saying anything critical about police work, but just that, is it really our place to be criticising this so early on before we really know any more other than that this is an incredibly interesting game which is pushing the forefront of a next-gen engine? Like, if it had already come out and done something really fucked, then yes, absolutely, criticise that, but it's just a first-person shooter. It's no different than dozens and dozens of other games we've played, and yet for some reason this just sparked this surreal backlash of you're not doing it right. Anyway, thanks for watching. I apologise, I've left the window open, so you probably heard a lot of people revving their engines outside, but yeah, I'll leave links to UNRECORD and to the other game as well. Sorry, I've been kind of scrolling through everything and I've completely lost. Paranormal Tales as well, I'll leave a link to that too. Please give them both a look. If you're interested in immersive gaming, then this is very much where we're heading next. Anyway, thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Is Oscar? Teddy! Teddy! Come here, boy! Oh, what has got into him? Teddy, come on now! Teddy, for fuck's sake! Oh, fuck.